I believe there are three ways the judge could go with this. All three have significant effects on how mergers will go in the future. The first is if the judge blocks this deal. Blocking this deal will have a significant, long-standing effect on whether or not the law means anything. Over 50 years ago, the Supreme Court said the law is not the Justice Department is always right. The law requires evidence to be built, and then the judge will assess that evidence and decide whether or not a merger should go through. Here, the Department of Justice has really not produced any evidence. So if the judge blocks it, there's some serious concerns. Second is that the remedy the judge would need to address would have to be a remedy based upon the evidence. And here, since there's very little evidence, the judge creating a remedy would merely be regulation. It would merely be a judge sitting in a courtroom creating regulation over entities. So I have some serious concerns over what this judge is going to do at 4 o'clock today.
Tim, I know you feel differently.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by some of that, what I just heard. For one thing, there's not been no evidence. The expert economist for the government, Carl Shapiro, said, here's a model shows how the prices will be increased by this situation. So, yeah, I guess I disagree with the characterization that the government hasn't put on its case. There's been some observers think they met their burden. Unless we do agree that the decision, I think really no one knows what's going to happen, and it will affect all the mergers that people are talking about in the media industries.
Do we normally go into a ruling with this little consensus about the outcome?
Well, we haven't gotten into a ruling for 40-something years, so, we're in completely different territory here. But, judges, it's about how the judges credit the evidence, and both sides have presented evidence. I disagree with my panelist here, and I think it depends on who he really thinks is credible, whether he blocks this or lets it go through.
Ethan, if the judge sides with the government on this one, what does it mean for the broader M&A landscape? And I mean not just media, but when you look at some of the deals in healthcare and other sectors as well.
Well, it really depends on why the judge finds for the government. If the judge finds for the government for the reasons that the professor outlined, which is that an economist from an academic institution has decided that he sees problems using economic models, then I think that's going to really put a pall on merger activity. As we've talked about for 6 months, this is a vertical merger, a merger amongst entities that don't compete. Normally we see those as pro-competitive, normally see those as good for the economy and good for consumers. And so if the judge finds that the evidence of a professor using economic models to predict some price increases is enough evidence to block a merger like this, I think it's going to put a lot of questions about a lot of mergers out there, both in the media space and outside the media space, about what really the government's burden is if it's so low.
A professor, Tim. You are a professor. I wonder if this indeed does go through, what are the conditions that you would, I guess, would be on your dream list? What are the issues that are most important when you see this kind of vertical merger where someone who's strong in distribution then owns a big, important chunk of content?
Yeah, well, I think some of the most important conditions could actually be divestiture of some of the assets, the ones that are the most important, maybe the Turner assets, for example, maybe HBO, something like this. The assets are the ones that AT&T seems to have the most capacity to use as a club to threaten other distributors.
Also, things they want the most.
Right. Well, that's right. Yeah, I mean,
the deal.
Yeah. Well, they're the most dangerous in the sense of being able to threaten and raise prices. That's what the government has said. The other sort of things would be, I mean, AT&T has already proposed a baseball arbitration price mechanism where people can say, all right, if we're trying to raise too high prices, you do something. Maybe we'll see some net neutrality conditions for the broadband issues.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.